With Trump now set to become president, some of those principled Republicans, I don't know why I did that, because they actually were kind of being principled, who stood up to Trump during the election, are now singing a slightly different tune. And the first one that we're going to break down is Representative Mike Coffman, a Republican of Colorado, who was not a fan of Trump during the election because Trump was abhorrent. And so he ran ads like this.
People ask me, what do you think about Trump? Honestly, I don't care for him much, and I certainly don't trust Hillary. I'm a Marine. For me, country comes first. My duty is always to you. So if Donald Trump is the president, I'll stand up to him, plain and simple. And if Hillary wins, I'll hold her accountable every step of the way. I'm Mike Coffman, and I approve this message. My job is clear. Work hard and serve you. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, this is why people can't stand politicians. You know what that ad means? I'm from a district where it could really go either way. It's a purple district.
Yep.
A lot of you can't stand Donald Trump, but a lot of you can't stand Hillary Clinton. So I'm going to do this wishy-washy ad where I'm going to pretend that I'm for country first. What does that mean? We're all for country first. Yeah, but what are your ideas? How are you going to make the country better? I'm for country, what, third? No, we all know that, you schmuck. And then, but remember, I was a Marine. And, you know, and I talk plain and simple. So he was going to hold Trump accountable. So let's find out if he did that, John.
Yeah, no, I think he just got done with a session of holding him accountable. There was a meeting of the House Republican Conference, and then after that meeting, a bunch of the representatives streamed out, and they were holding Trump hats, which is funny because they were literally coming out hat in hand. And so Mike Coffman gave a couple of quotes about the meeting. He said, "I am excited about the next 2 years and look forward to working with the president. I'll tell you what is so exciting is I no longer have to worry about executive orders or excesses in the rulemaking process."
Oh, wait till you see his executive orders.
What country are you a representative for? And what election did you just watch? What we have to realize is we don't need to be the distraction to this new president. This is a different representative, by the way, another one who previously stood up to him. And we are where we are with the majorities because of this new president, not because of us, which is an interesting, very submissive thing to say there. The American public has kind of spoken pretty loud, and it wasn't us that won the election. Let's face it, Trump's going to have the bully pulpit. I agree, it wasn't you that won the election. It was Hillary that won the election by driving down turnout so much that Donald Trump won.
So
we've seen
now,
evidence of that.
Let's break this down. First of all, this is a giant... we didn't win the election, alpha male Trump.
I didn't collect these bananas. You did.
You did.
Eat
You
them.
did. Please take them from me. Okay. I believe that the right wing has a term for this. I think it's called cuck. Okay. So, secondly, Mike Coffman, you slimy ass politician.
Yeah.
I will hold Trump accountable. I'm so excited Trump won. And I'll tell you why I'm excited. Yeah. I'm so excited. Oh, yeah, boy, you're on the case of holding him accountable, Coffman.
Yeah.
I see it.
It's an interesting strategy, too, because he's in the House, not in the Senate. As just one of literally hundreds of Republicans, unless you're in the leadership, generally you're just a number. You don't matter too much. And if his district was close enough in this election that just finished where he had to stand up to Trump, imagine what it's going to look like after 2 years of Trump wrecking the country. And he's now the guy who's excited to work with Trump, which is going to make a great campaign ad in 2 years. There is actually a dignity to being a resistant member of the party in power. I mean, Bernie Sanders served that role. We respect him for that. Rand Paul, who doesn't deserve respect for a lot of different things, just today came out with a statement that was strongly against Bannon being in the White House and said this is not acceptable. We cannot have...
Bolton.
Oh, sorry, that was Bolton, yes. Yeah, he said that that bringing back the neocons of the Bush years, we're not going to do that. And he pointed out the hypocrisy in Trump embracing the people who were the architects of the foreign policy he's been criticizing this whole time. And so there's a respect to be gained there. And Coffman's just, no, I don't want that.
No, but it's not in their nature. Okay, number one, they're politicians. Number two, they're authoritarians because they're Republicans. So it is in their nature to bow down and offer up their, services for the alpha male. So I told you that all this talk of the Republicans would be a check on Donald Trump was preposterous. They're not going to check him at all. He's a strong man. The minute he does this, They're going to be like, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. And it's already happening.
Yeah.
So, but one last thing about this is a little interesting. And I don't know that they intended this, but it worried me a little bit. So they hand out all those Trump red hats. So instead
They're
of
still making those.
yeah. No, but think about this, okay? So they're all supposed to get excited and put on the red hats. Okay, at least some of this is intended. So the part that's intended is, hey, wear the hat. So some of you were actually excited by me. Some of you were not on board. Some of you were in the middle. Wear the hat.
Yeah.
Okay. So secondly, this part I'm not sure is
It's like
intended.
branding them to some extent.
It is, but
Yeah.
listen, then you notice who didn't wear the hat coming out. And then you make a list.
Oh, that's also true, yeah.
Okay. Now,
He wouldn't make a list.
on day one after the election, they were all over TV bragging about how they were going to have an enemies list.
Yeah, have fun with that.
And so now they don't have brown shirts, they have red hats. But everybody, now we're watching who's wearing the red hat and who's not wearing the red hat. And all of a sudden there are lists. So that part, again, is a little speculative. I don't know that they're even savvy enough to do that. And I don't know if that's how they make their enemies list.
Yeah.
But just saying to all of them, wear the damn hat is already bad enough.
Yeah, and look, I will also say not only is there potentially, like, you can distinguish yourself from the people who line up by standing up to Trump, but as someone who is worried about what Trump could possibly accomplish, this is scary because we actually need some rational Republicans to be willing to stand up for Trump. Not on most of his goals, they're going to go along with almost everything, but when he starts to go against some of the fundamental norms and standards in our democracy, when he starts to target various minority groups, when he starts to target the media, we need 20 or 30 Republicans in the House that are willing to stop the greatest excesses. Because in the House, the Democrats are going to be able to do effectively nothing. There's no filibuster. They can't stop almost anything unless they have a couple of dozen Republicans. And if they're all wearing the hat, I don't know what could end up happening. And it could get very scary.
There's only one check on Donald Trump. If enough Republican donors, Chamber of Commerce, etc., go to Republicans and go, we're done with him. Then the Republicans go, okay, Mike Pence is president. He'll do exactly what we tell him to do.
Yeah.
Not so bad. So it could go in that direction. They'll all bow their heads in the beginning. And anything he does against certain races or religions largely is going to be not that relevant to these guys. But if he hurts their financial interests, then all of a sudden he'll look around and won't be able to find anybody wearing a hat. There's so much more Young Turks content if you're a member. Great shows like Aggressive Progressives, Old School, you'll get post games, all ad-free, plus the whole 2-hour show. I know what you're thinking.
This is huge.
And it kind of is. So come join us. tytnetwork.com/join.